Welcome to Weekly News Highlights, where we wrap up your week with a glimpse back into what went on over the past week. I'm Kim Dami in Seoul. We're a week into the armed conflict between the Israeli Defense Forces and Palestinian militant group Hamas. The U.S. continues seeking for approval for additional funding and aid to Israel. The International Monetary Fund believes the world economy is still limping, not sprinting. The financial agency slashed its outlook to 2.9% and also lowered South Korea's forecast. Robo-vacuums, robo-lawnmowers, and robo-servers, living with robots is nothing new. Robot World 2023 took place this week, introducing more futuristic robots. It's been a week since the war between Israel and Hamas broke out. The U.S. is actively stepping up to back Israel through all means and sources. In fact, the U.S. and Qatar decided not to release the $6 billion in Iranian funds as part of a U.S. prisoner swap amid speculation over Iran's role in backing Hamas. Our Moon Hae-ryun tells us more.
The death tolls in the fighting between Israel and Hamas continue to rise. Following the Hamas attacks on Israel last Saturday, Israel has launched thousands of airstrikes on the Gaza Strip, with the Israeli defense minister saying that they would wipe Hamas off the face of the earth. As of Thursday local time, the death toll in Israel has come to around 1,300, while Gaza authorities reported that the number of deaths in the Gaza Strip came to over 1,400. Including injuries on either side, the number of those who have been injured or killed has breached the 10,000 mark. Amid the conflict, the United States delivered a message of solidarity through its Secretary of State during his visit to Israel.
You may be strong enough on your own to defend yourself, but as long as America exists, you will never ever have to. We will always be there by your side.
Antony Blinken is due to continue his tour of the Middle East by visiting Qatar, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates in a bid to put further pressure on Hamas to release the hostages taken on Saturday. With at least 25 Americans reported to be killed in the Hamas attacks, the U.S. is ramping up its support with plans to provide more monetary funding, as well as preparing a visit to Tel Aviv from its Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin on Friday. In addition to showing support for its allies, the Biden administration has also stopped Iran from accessing the $6 billion of frozen Iranian money from banks in South Korea in its deal for the release of American citizens a few weeks ago. Crude oil exports from Iran may also face sanctions from Washington to cut off revenue after it reportedly provided Hamas with weapons and military training. While NATO officials have said that they do not expect the alliance to become directly involved, many countries other than the US have offered Israel military aid following a meeting between defense chiefs on Thursday. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
So things appear to be nowhere near being settled in the Middle East. One area hit by Hamas' surprise attack was a music festival in southern Israel, which suffered hundreds of civilian casualties and kidnappings. Our Choi So-hyung spoke to one of the survivors of the horrific incident.
In one brief moment, a music festival meant for joy turned into a nightmare in southern Israel near the Gaza border on Saturday morning. Hila, a 26-year-old part-time bartender at the festival, told Arirang News that a rocket went off overhead. She thought it was fireworks.
I was telling to one of the customers, hey, look, there is a fireworks. And he looked at the sky and told me, I don't think it's fireworks. And we see a lot of red alarm, we call it in Israel, when like it's a missiles and rockets alarms. And then the production shut out the music and scream, there's a lot of missiles and rockets, run or hide.
At first, she hid inside the bar, frozen still in fear. One of her friends grabbed her hand to get off there.
And I turn around and see all the terrorists. People start to falling one by one, just like it doesn't related to if you're a soldier or an innocent civilian. How old are you? What is your gender? What is your religion? If you're Israeli or not? Just shooting all the people.
Some of her friends were killed in the massacre terror at the festival, and the fate of some is uncertain.
They're raping my friends. I have 3 friends that are already dead. 2 of them, we don't know what's happened to them, and 2 of them inside of Gaza. That one of the things that I do remember, it's really in my mind, that while we are running and screaming and crying, I hear them singing and laughing.
A freelance journalist based in Tel Aviv, Israel, delivers the current situation from the field in Gaza.
The authorities in Israel ended up finding 260 dead bodies just from this festival alone. I know in one of the communities where a good friend of mine lives, at least 15 people, even within her community, were murdered, dragged out of their homes and shot pretty much execution style, in her words.
She added almost 360,000 reserve troops, including volunteers, have been called up throughout the country.
And Israel doesn't want to kill anyone. We don't want to kill Palestinians. That's not what the ethos of this country is about. But Israel must defend itself, and we don't have any choice.
They said that Palestine and Hamas are completely different and that the terrorist organization must stop. Cha Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
The United States has decided to allow exports of its chip manufacturing equipment to Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix factories in China without a separate approval process. And South Korea's top office sees this as an extension of a solid Seoul-Washington alliance. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young has the details.
The United States has suspended restrictions indefinitely on South Korea's largest chip makers importing American semiconductor equipment to their factories in China as Seoul works to resolve its biggest bottlenecks in global trade. On Monday, Senior Presidential Secretary for Economic Affairs Choi Sang-mok said the US government designated Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix's semiconductor plants in China as verified end users. This allows the two firms to import sensitive tech items for use in their Chinese chip factories without the need to obtain a permit each time.
This decision by the US government means that the biggest trade issue for Korean chip makers has been resolved. This has also greatly alleviated uncertainties related to their factory operations and investments in China.
Last October, the US imposed new rules to restrict advanced computing and chip production gear from entering China to curb the growth of Beijing's chip industry and its stealing of technology. Samsung and SK Hynix had a one-year exemption, but Seoul has for months been pushing for an extension of that grace period, which was set to expire this month. Semiconductors last year made up almost a fifth of South Korea's exports. More than 40% of Samsung's NAND chips and half of SK Hynix's DRAM chips are produced at plants in China. While noting that other trade issues may arise in the future, Yoon's economic aide said Washington's waiver came about as Presidents Yoon and Joe Biden, since their first summit in May last year, have committed to close cooperation on high-tech supply chains while strengthening their bilateral alliance. Chair also projected optimism on Korean auto giant's green car sales in the US market, saying the Korean government has been helping them secure subsidies under Washington's Inflation Reduction Act, which sets out assembly and battery requirements that largely favor American firms with domestic manufacturing. Furthermore, amid various headwinds facing the Korean economy, Chair said the Yoon government boosted foreign direct investment to unprecedented levels, recording almost $24 billion from January to September, a rise of 11.3% on year. Greenfield investment in high-tech industries like chips and batteries, he said, are likely to help strengthen supply chains and create new jobs across the domestic economy. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
The IMF outlook for next year has worsened for the limping world economy. It warns the world economy has lost momentum due to the impact of higher interest rates, the Ukraine crisis, and widening geopolitical rifts. Our Moon Hae-ryun tells us more.
The International Monetary Fund maintained its 2023 economic growth projection for South Korea, but made cuts for 2024. On Tuesday, it released its final World Economic Growth Report for the year and summarized upcoming economic conditions as stable but slow. It maintained its growth projection of 3% made in July for 2023, but made adjustments to 2024, lowering the overall world economic growth outlook by 0.1 of a percentage point to 2.9%. South Korea's economic outlook was given a similar forecast, maintaining the same growth projection of 1.4% for the rest of the year ahead, but had its growth forecast cut by 0.2 of a percentage point for 2024. The IMF's prediction for 2023 is the same as the Bank of Korea's made around a month ago. The Washington-based agency attributed the stable economic conditions for the rest of the year to eased COVID-19 restrictions, heightening consumer demand in the service sector such as tourism. As for the slow pace of growth, China's slower-than-expected rebound and the slump in the manufacturing sector was said to be contributing factors. Just last week, the World Bank downgraded its forecast for China's growth next year, with the world's second biggest economy predicted to expand at one of its lowest rates since the 1960s. The IMF also predicted that rising consumer prices are likely to stabilize due to continued high interest rates as well as a decline in global prices for raw materials. However, it said that there will be a gradual decline in target levels for inflation. Most countries are supposedly set to achieve target levels by 2025. Core inflation, the changing costs of goods and services, excluding volatile food and energy prices, was adjusted to slow at a more gradual pace this year. Some key economic tasks for governments going forward were said to be maintaining fiscal soundness through the expansion of stable sources of tax revenue. Structural reform and improvement of fiscal policies to enhance overall economic production were cited as mid to long-term goals. 문혜련, Arirang News.
Samsung Electronics is projecting an improvement in its performance for the third quarter of this year. Now, analysts expect that a loss by its semiconductor unit was offset by a strong performance from its mobile and display divisions, thanks to its Galaxy Z Flip 5 and Fold 5 smartphone models. The South Korean tech giant on Wednesday reported estimated operating profits of 2.4 trillion Korean won, or around $1.8 billion US. Now that's down almost 78% from a year earlier. But it's also a distinct improvement from the previous quarters of this year, with its operating profits skyrocketing nearly threefold compared to the second quarter. Estimated sales for the third quarter plunged by more than 12% on-year, but they rose by over 11% from the previous quarter to around $50 billion. In related news, South Korea's LG Electronics posted its second highest operating profit ever for the third quarter this year, despite the sluggish economy and weak consumer demand. In a regulatory filing on Tuesday, LG Electronics said that its operating profit surged more than 33% from the previous year to 967.7 trillion won, or around $740 million during the July to September period. Although sales fell slightly more than 2% compared to a year earlier to around $15.3 billion, it was still the second highest sales figure recorded for the third quarter, with the highest being from the previous year. This was largely owed to the company expanding its B2B operations in its auto parts and heating, ventilation, and AC businesses, as well as the strong performance from its home appliance sector. South Korea is trying to boost the local economies of cities and towns outside of Seoul to prevent them from disappearing. And one way to do that is through something called loconomy. And joining me is our economics correspondent, Lee Sujin. Welcome, Sujin.
Good to be here.
So, Sujin, let's start with the term itself, loconomy. What does it mean exactly?
So economy is a combination of two words, local and economy. It aims to stimulate local economies, especially in rural areas, through businesses and products that reflect characteristics unique to that region. It's a term that's been gaining traction since the first half of this year because it's being seen as a way to help communities avoid extinction. Even places in Gyeonggi-do province, the only province that has seen its population increase over the past decade, are in danger of dying out. A report released earlier this year showed that 30 out of the 31 cities and counties in the province will be at high risk of extinction by 2067.
Sujin, that's a lot. Now then, what gives an area be given the so-called high-risk extinction designation? How can the so-called loconomy actually be used to prevent these areas from dying out?
So that designation is given to areas where the number of those aged 65 and above is more than 5 times that of women in their 20s and 30s. And experts said that stimulating the local economy by attracting visitors can prevent extinction. Let's take a listen to what he said.
An influx of visitors that spend money will drastically decrease the possibility of that place disappearing, even if they don't settle down there.
The best way to draw visitors is the economy, as it will help local businesses keeping the area alive. Here's what he said.
The most important thing is to make sure that people living in the area want to stay there. Trying to directly increase the rural population is unrealistic as of now, so this is the most practical option.
Then give us an examples of places in South Korea that we may be familiar with that have been successful in actually revitalizing the economy through loconomy.
So one place is actually none other than Yangon County, one of the most popular surfing spots in the nation. Originally a small fishing village, it promoted a feature that made it unique: beaches with the right water depth and consistent waves that make it ideal for surfing. According to Yangon County office, Yangyang's surfing population has been steadily increasing with nearly 470,000 visitors last year. And the economic impact of the surfing industry was estimated to have almost tripled last year compared to 2019.
Sujin, and it's not just Yangyang. You recently went out to check out an area in Incheon that's implementing the loconomy, right? Tell us more about that.
Right, so we were able to visit this neighborhood in Incheon called Gaehang, and it's a place that has a very long history and that can be seen in its buildings. Once a bustling port area, it began fading from people's memories as many began leaving the neighborhood in favor of more modern areas. Then around 6 years ago, a local group made up of people who grew up in the area decided to apply loconomy to revitalize the village's economy and save it from dying out, by emphasizing the very characteristic that many saw as a root of the problem: its old-fashionedness. The head of the local group says that he believes that it's the area's old-fashionedness, also reflected in the old corner shops scattered across the village, that holds the key to the town's longevity. Let's take a listen to what he said.
I believe that once Gaehang's economy improves and the old corner shop owners make money, they'll pass on their businesses to their children, and then the neighborhood will have a lasting history.
Now, I want to know, how did they actually manage to turn their old-fashionedness into something that will actually help these old shops make more money?
So instead of demolishing or redesigning these old corner shops, their old-fashionedness was actually not only preserved, but also promoted through galleries and social media to attract visitors. In Gaehang, there are more than 60 corner shops that have been there for at least 40 years that each have their own history. The head of the local group also said that he leaned into the retro boom to raise awareness about the wide variety of old corner shops in the village, and even the owners behind them, they all have decades of experience. And this has already proven to be effective, as local businesses such as this custom wood shop are already benefiting from the visitors who are fans of the retro trend. Here's what the owner of a corner shop said.
People from Seoul also began to place orders as they discovered my shop on one of their visits to Gaehang.
The shop owner said that until recently, he had been tempted to close his business and leave the area altogether, but he decided to stay after seeing how the neighborhood is starting to slowly change. Keeping with the retro trend of the area, he also designed the vintage logo of the local beer.
It looks like businesses within the community are also collaborating with one another. Now then, are there any other ways that the local beer actually embodies the village's loconomy in its old-fashionedness?
There actually is. So Gaehang beer is actually brewed to have a higher percentage of malt, giving it a taste reminiscent of beer from the 60s and 70s. In response to the rise in visitors who come just to drink this beer, as it's sold only in Incheon, the local brewery has also started to sell its own merchandise. While the locals are well aware that there is still much work to be done before Gaehang's economy reaches a level of places like Yangyang, both are a testament to how loconomy is creating real economic value.
All right, so Jane, thanks so much for your report today.
No problem, anytime.
Lego plastic works could be small, but they often spark big and imaginative creations for children and adults alike. And here's an artist who's using them to reinterpret traditional Korean culture. Our Song Yujin has this story.
The soulful sound of the Korean traditional song Pansori harmonizes with the graceful moves of chuningmu, a Korean traditional dance. What makes this performance even more captivating is a Lego ensemble seemingly dancing and playing music in the background. It's all part of Lego artist So Jin-ho or Colin Jin's first solo exhibition, Colin Jin's Historical Lego, where plastic blocks breathe life into tradition.
Korean culture is enjoying global popularity, but in reality, everything popular today is quite modern. It made me wonder if we might be losing touch with our history. I began delving into our cultural heritage from the past and got the idea of using Lego blocks to connect the past with the present.
The exhibition showcases 100 Lego artworks depicting Korean cultural heritage. The highlight is the Jongmyo Chereak, a royal ancestral ritual that was carried out between the 14th and 19th centuries during the Joseon dynasty. A UNESCO cultural heritage, this Confucian ceremony features song, dance, and music with dozens of performers.
The playful combination of the traditional orchestra, so even the traditional Korean instruments are in there, several of them. So I think it's quite exciting.
You can also enjoy Lego versions of the Korean folk dance Seungmu, a dragon-faced roof tile from the ancient Silla kingdom, and the Korean mask Tal. It took So 18 months and over 10,000 blocks to finish his creations, and he didn't rely on any customized Lego blocks or manuals. The exhibition's goal: to entertain and educate visitors.
Making Korean culture and the arts easily enjoyable for everyone is a wonderful endeavor. We're delighted to be a part of the opening ceremony and look forward to promoting our cultural heritage to a wider audience.
A reinterpretation of traditional Korean beauty through the lens of one of the modern era's most iconic toys, Colin Jin's Historical Lego is on show at the Moriham exhibition in central Seoul for 2 weeks. Song Yujin, Arirang News.
Robot vacuums keeping the house nice and clean are nothing new. But how about a cleaning robot that responds to human gestures? Our Moon Hae-ryun has more from Robot World 2023.
Robots that can fry food, robots that can walk on all fours, robots that can piece things together. These are just some of the robots on display at the country's largest robot convention this year. Starting on Tuesday and running until Saturday, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy is hosting the biggest Robot World yet.
Here at Robot World 2023, over 240 companies and organizations are showcasing a future where robots and humans can walk side by side.
This is a robot that serves, but unlike most serving robots that follow a given path, this one can navigate through narrow spaces. It can also avoid small objects on the floor, but its biggest development is the way it responds to human gestures. Raising a hand will register in its system through a camera sensor, prompting it to wheel over. This South Korean company also developed the first cleaning robot in the world that, instead of wheels, has a mop that swivels to move. This year, it's been upgraded so that it can pass over raised door sills into different rooms. But robots are now advancing beyond assisting humans in their daily lives. Now we're a step closer to coexisting with robots and having them work with each other. The Korea Institute of Science and Technology has developed a sequence of coordinated robots to create the ultimate cafe experience. Robots take your order, make the coffee, serve it to your table, and also serenade you with music.
This demonstration shows how different robots will be able to coexist with us in the future.
And it's not just in our everyday routine where robots come in handy. In industrial production, they're key workers. Labor shortages in the shipbuilding industry are a serious issue all around the world. Not only are there not enough people, but as jobs such as welding require special training, it's difficult to find people who have enough experience to produce the quality of work needed. With these robots, however, anyone can weld.
This robot just needs a starting point of welding, and then it will do the job for you.
With the expansion of robots in a wide variety of fields from service to manufacturing, it's fast becoming a key future industry for the country. The government will be announcing its fourth basic plan for intelligent robots within the year in order to foster the robotics industry further. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Here, the twin baby pandas that were born this July in South Korea finally got their names on Thursday after a public contest. Our Yuni introduces Ruibao and Huibao.
Everland, the country's largest theme park, has decided to name its twin baby pandas Ruibao, meaning wise treasure, and Huibao, meaning shining treasure. Announced on Thursday, the names were chosen following a public contest, which took place from August 24th to October 6th. A brief media day event was held the same day, where Everland zookeepers introduced the twins in front of the cameras and some invited guests, capturing hearts as they made their entrance. The firstborn, Ruibao, weighed 180 grams at birth, while the younger, Huibao, was just 140 grams. The twins now weigh over 5 kilograms, with the weight being put on in only 100 days.
We had never raised twins before, so we were quite nervous. However, watching them grow has made me happy, and it seems that many people following us on social media have also been very happy.
The twins' parents are Aibao and Robao, and the twins have an elder sister, Fubao, the first giant panda bred naturally in Korea. After the sensational birth of the twins, Everland ran the naming contest in which approximately 20,000 people participated, submitting more than 40,000 names. Out of the 10 finalists, 700,000 participants' votes finalized the 2 names, reflecting the popularity of the panda family. Considering that it is challenging for the mother Aibao to take care of both babies at the same time, the twins had to take turns being fed by Aibao and also being given formula milk. This is currently on a 10-day rotation. However, starting from around 4 months old, when they start walking steadily, they will both be cared for by their mother.
They have now opened their eyes and are starting to grow their teeth. Once they start walking well, which is expected at around 4 months, they will return to their mother. And if they follow her well enough, they can be introduced to the public.
Coming together on such a meaningful day, my children were very excited, and I also felt very happy today.
Hopefully, the twins will have grown healthy enough to adapt to the external environment and be ready to meet the public next year. Ian-hee, Arirang News.
We thank you for watching Weekly News Highlights. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.